October 23rd, 2000. We're just flying on the Pictou Island. You see we're just at the west end, and it's mostly bedrock. Shoreline, upper cliff has got some glacial deposits, probably 6 to 10 meters high. But the lower shore is pretty well all bedrock. Some of the embayments have pockets and beaches, but not very much. We're flying at about 300 feet and at about 70 miles per hour.
The shoreline continues to be dominated by bedrock in the lower intertidal. The back shore is erosional cliff, mostly glacial deposits. We're just coming up on the largest wharf structure on the island. The ferry probably comes here from the mainland, and many of the fishing boats are stored at this wharf structure. You can see a good view overlooking Pictou Island and the bedrock outcrops in the near shore on this part of the shore.
As you approach Rogers Point, this part of the shoreline is all mostly rocky bedrock on the lower intertidal. I imagine it's all Pictou group, sandstones and shales. You can see some of it's caved out, and then you have glacial deposits overlying that. The result is the bedrock's very close to the surface, which causes you see a bedrock platform in places. The back shore is more erosional till cliff at this place, and then at Rogers Point is a beautiful sand foreland. It's composed of multiple dune ridges, a wide sand beach, and you see some of the ridges in the back shore are treed. There's some paths that cut across the beach from these houses. It's an extensive shallow sand seabed off the shore of it, and then right away you switch right back into bedrock exposures. The sand must be coming from farther offshore. It's pretty much the same all the way along it. It's bedrock controlled. Glacial deposits over top. The beach is sandy. Offshore is sandy. There's a bit of gravel in places, some beach cusps and transverse ribs. Offshore, there's suspended sediment in the water today from the storm last night. And now we're getting primarily all bedrock with a little bit of glacial deposits over top. And the relief has probably increased to closer to 15 meters. Now we're getting towards the east end. So you have more glacial deposits over top of the bedrock. Waves are refracting in around the island and coming in on these beaches right now. At the far end, there's a breakwater that's shown on the map that exists offshore of the cottages. It's quite an impressive structure to build to protect these cottages. What they're trying to do is catch sand in behind, which they seem to be effectively doing. Do a slide of that. Now, as you enter the east end of Pictou Island, there's again a bedrock structure. It's bedrock dominated. There's a shoal that extends quite a ways offshore. It's bedrock as well. The waves are breaking. You see the surf zone increases considerably on this side of the island. And there's a low gradient rock platform extends right off of the east end. And then farther along shore, there's more of a sand beach. Sandy along right until where we are now, where you're seeing in the video now, it switches more into bedrock control again. There's more boulders and coarser material. The backshore is a very water saturated eroded bank. Probably glacial till, but it looks a little different. It's hard to tell with the lighting.
Along the north side of Pictou Island, the lighting's not very good. You can't really see the proportion of bedrock to glacial material in the backshore, but there appears to be an erosional cliff all the way along here. The relief is less than 15 meters, and what we've got, it seems, is a series of rock outcrops and little shallow embayments with thin deposits of sand over bedrock. There you can see there's much more of a wider intertidal, more coarse slag material, and less sand on the upper foreshore. You can see some erosional, probably glacial deposits in the backshore here, and much wider sand beach, probably due to its embayed nature of the shore, but also there's more source material onshore. See quite a bit of sediment, suspended sediment offshore. As we go by John Dan's Cove, we come into another cove. It's a much wider beach, more dune development. There's a river outlet. It's quite a substantial beach. Prograding beach ridges and dune ridges. And then once we come out of this embayment, we again switch back into a more coarse substrate in the near shore and erosional rock cliff with some glacial deposits over top. You see the cliff heights are around probably 10 meters, maybe a touch higher. The overall relief of the island is just the highest point is just over 15 meters. There you can see better the thickness of the glacial material over top of the bedrock. Bedrock dominates the headlands, more of a rock ramp in this area. Waves running up the rock ramp to erode the backshore bluffs, which may provide the sediment for these wider sand beaches. More suspended sediment again in the water than we just saw a few minutes ago. And much wider sand beach at this part of Pictou Island as well. And there seems to be some old dunes in the backshore, hummocks. And there's a few cottages in the area. Erosional bluff may well be dune deposits that are being eroded. The source of the material is not clear, but it may be the cliffs that are to either side of this beach. Much wider beach, more coarse material in the Storm Ridge area. And then all of a sudden it abruptly stops. You can see there's quite a bit of sand just offshore, but the backshore farther along here is much coarser, and it seems to be a bit of a deep area before you hit the sand farther offshore. Along this section you can see the erosional cliff quite nicely, the gullied terrain, and then the wider intertidal, some bedrock outcrops and coarse substrate. These cliffs may be the source of the sand that's accumulating in the beaches that we just went by. It appears there's more sand as we approach the west end of Pictou Island as well, just before the rock outcrop. Very coarse beach in places, but there's pockets of sand as well. Erosional cliffs in the backshore. There's the accumulation of sand just at the west end of Pictou Island. And as we cross over to Caribou Island back on the mainland, you can see the lighthouse, and we'll get a good view looking along the south side of Pictou Island and some of the rock outcrops at the shoreline.
We're just approaching Gull Point on Caribou Island. See, there's an extensive shoal that wraps around the point. Actually protects the lighthouse, which has a fair bit of damage done to it. They're trying to rebuild the crib work around it, I guess. As you go into the next beach area, there's sort of exponential type style or spiral type beaches linked by headlands along here. This is an extensive sand beach where all the cottages are, and there's a low bluff of about 1 to 3 meters. And then we go into the anchor point, which is the Hawksbill Point, and its adjacent point, where you have an extensive low tide flat, with a lot of cobble, boulder, bedrock exposed in the upper intertidal, and then another sand beach between the 2 points. And this sort of alternate cobble, bedrock flats at the headlands and erosional cliffs switches into embayments with extensive wide sand beaches with sub-dune grass and dune ridges in the back shore. Our time is 17:51, it's October 23rd, and we're flying at about 300 feet and about 80 miles per hour. Coming up to a small barrage-schwa, it appears to be closed off now. Don't know if it was ever open. Nice property beside it. Several little pond areas all along here. All of these are closed barrage-schwas. There's a sand dune, mainly a single crested, a little bit of overwash on the one end at the west end. On this section of shore, there's some bedrock exposed offshore, quite an extensive low tide platform. And then this place, there's a large crib work being built in front of the slope that was eroding away. As I was saying earlier, Caribou Island was actually an island up until 1922 or so when the Causeway was built. And then the roadway was built on top of it in the 40s. But it's always been a popular recreational area, a lot of cottages and so on. As you can see on the hillside, there's some substantial homes that are threatened by erosion. Some of them have crib work in front of them, some of them don't. Some of them have bedrock platforms in front of them, which will help to some extent. Off just a little bit. Whoa, okay. Just as we come around the corner at Waterside Beach, we've just gone around Gully Head. This is where the Causeway was built, and we've been monitoring Waterside Beach for since '81. It's certainly one of the fastest prograding beaches in the province. You can see a number of beach ridges have developed in behind this rocky outcrop.
Looking down at Waterside Beach, the progradational beach ridges in behind this bedrock outcrop. Bedrock in the near shore. You can see the boardwalks crossing the beach ridges and the dune ridges that have been building over time. and the ridge and runnel intertidal topography in front of the beach. Going farther west, we get an erosional scarp and cliff along the back shore. Whether this is the main source of sediment or whether the sediment that's building Waterside Beach is from farther offshore, I don't know. But you can see the sand is quite thin over top of bedrock.
The cliff is about less than 5 meters to as much as 10 meters. Appears to be some bedrock in it. Most of it's glacial. So there's certainly bedrock exposed at the shoreline. And as we come into this little cove just up here, I guess it would be called Sam's Point area, I guess. There's more ridge and runnel sand development. This section of shoreline, again, bedrock, low tide platform, mixed sediment in the intertidal, and then the cliff is partly bedrock and overlain by glacial deposits. In a lot of sections just along here, there's the sand flats, ridge and runnel topography. Then I think this is Roddy's Point coming up onto now. There's several cottages along the beach, and then the headland sort of anchoring the whole point in place. Looks like there's a fairly well-developed beach, although at the headland end there was a lot of riprap. Heading toward Ernie's Point, same sort of scenario. A wide sand beach, pebble cobble in the upper intertidal, and then spots where you just have cobble boulder material and bedrock. And there's several sand flats, sand beach, pocket sand beaches in between the rock outcrops. Yeah, the geological map suggests that it's a silty diamicton over bedrock. It's about 10 meters high along most of this area. There you can see some bedrock exposed on the headland. Where the beaches are wider, you've got quite an extensive dune development in the back shore, multiple dune ridges. And that marsh has been closed off to the sea. So we're just approaching Tony River, so we're probably going on Gordon's Beach right now. Very popular area, wide sand beach. A single dune ridge has been scarped, and then a marsh behind. Our time is 1758. A lot of riprap been added along in front of some of these cottages. This guy has plowed his whole front of his lawn all the way down to the water. We're just coming up on Tony River now. There's a large breakwater complex which is anchoring the beach. It's just on the other side of it. extensive sand beach on the other side. Along the far side of this headland, there's a lot of riprap and seawalls been established in front of the houses, but not in front of all of them.
We travel along McKinnon's Cove. You can see there's more sand, thicker sand over top of the bedrock in the embayments, switches into bedrock outcrops at the headlands, and an erosional scarp and cliff in the backshore. The amount of sand that's in each one of these embayments seems to vary at different times. We're just going by Mackenzie's Point, where there's a large rock outcrop and rock ramp, and then much wider sand beach. The thickness of sediment varies all along shore. There you can see some steps going down to the beach from the cottage.
Going up to Grants Point, McMaster's Point, along this shore all the way to Cape John. It's a series of rock outcrop headlands controlling sort of a undulating shoreline. The sand accumulates in the embayments. Sometimes it's thick and sometimes not very thick in this case, over bedrock. And the headlands are usually bedrock. The cliff at the back is about 8 to 10 meters, so probably more than almost close to 15 meters now, although we're not up to that contour, I don't think. Oh yeah, probably 15 meters. This part of the shoreline is more difficult to figure out exactly what location you're at, because it's all fairly similar. But so is the shoreline. The scarp in the back shore, even though you can't see it that well, is glacial material over top of bedrock. The beach itself is sandy, if there's any beach at all, overlying bedrock. I think we just passed Kirk's Brook, and we're heading towards Seafoam and McDonald's Cove. Time is 18:02. In this area, there's an extensive bedrock platform just offshore of the headland at Mccauley's reef. And this fellow is built for a house on top of the reef. There's a large trailer park on the other side of McDonald's Cove. Seems to be a popular beach. Small stream exiting out of the pond, cemetery on the hillside. As you work your way along this part of the coast, switching from the erosional cliff, mostly glacial deposits over till, and then we have an old wharf structure at the far side of the cove. Just coming up on Horns Point. Sandstone, looks like sandstone bedrock, maybe conglomerate. Very little glacial deposits over top of the bedrock here. I believe we're just near Melville, just sort of east of Melville, heading towards Johnson Point. Cliff, in this case glacial over bedrock again, wide sand beach. There's an inlet or outlet coming from the marsh across the beach. Extensive sand beach, a bit of crypt work in front of that one cottage. And then we go back into bedrock again.
We're just approaching Johnson's Point, which is the eastern headland of Skinner's Cove. Large promontory.
Bedrock lower intertidal, quite a large sediment plume offshore today. And then the upper intertidal is mostly bedrock. And then you have a glacial deposits over top of bedrock and the cliff. Just approaching the Skinner Cove wharf area. Two large breakwalls extend offshore. Sand beach on either side of it. We're flying at just under 300, and we're about 70 knots. There's 70 miles per hour.
We're just passing Forbes Point. The cliffs here in the area of 15 to 20 meters, very continuous, as well as the beach is continuous, but it narrows and widens in different places along shore. You see the farmland on the top of the cliff.
Much higher cliffs along here. You're up to over 15 meters relief, probably 20. Bedrock platform at the base. Bedrock almost all the way up to the top with only a few meters of glacial material as you approach Meigs Cove. Interesting pond at the top of the cliff in this location. I don't know what's ponding it. It must be an old glacial deposit ponding the water behind. Now it's starting into, we'll leave the cliff, the beach widens at Meigs Cove. Extensive sand beach covering all the bedrock and glacial deposits. It's all part of a Tom Polo sort of system that comes off of Cape John, linked it to the mainland, I guess. And you see the beach fronts the pond, and there's an opening at the far end of the beach. That is open at the moment, but probably is closed off quite often. There's some very large sand bodies just offshore.
As we swing around the west part of Meigs Cove, our sand deposits are disappearing. The backshore relief is increasing as the cliff gets higher, and we approach Marsh Point, where bedrock outcrops again occur, and then there's sand on the far side of that outcrop.